So, welcome, Cheryl. We all appreciate you coming out in Hollywood's hurricane season, okay? It's been a wild few weeks for you since the Oscar nominations were announced. But before we get into that controversy about what isn't or wasn't in this year's Oscars, tell me about the things that you actually love about the nominees this year. I mean, the good things, the things that you think are most of note and most special about this year's Oscars.
Oh, you mean other than Chris Rock?
Other than Chris Rock.
It's been a banner year, actually, in the movie business. We've had incredible success at the box office. There have been a number of very popular films that have done well around the world. We got to visit with some of our old friends, whether they were from the galaxy far, far away, or whether they were James Bond solving some issues, a few dinosaurs prancing around and getting revenge, and as well as intimate personal stories, very close to your heart, very personal, like Room or Brooklyn or Danish Girl. It's been great, and certainly I personally love a retelling or an advancement of the story of Rocky with a next generation and terrific acting. Also, certainly Straight Outta Compton. Which
wasn't nominated, right?
Yeah, which was not nominated as screenplay, but
Screenplay was.
Okay. There's a lot of wonderfulness about Straight Outta Compton that will continue for the actors as well as F. Gary Gray, which I think is really, really terrific.
Okay, well, when you saw, though, for the second year in a row that the Oscar nominees were predominantly white and male, did your heart sink? Did you knew there was going to be a...
Oh, yeah. I knew that February was going to be very exciting. And, it was like a bit of a punch to the stomach because there was some really terrific work that was done this year. But again, every year, I have to say that every year there is some disappointment, if you will, and not because anyone is necessarily left out, even though they are, but because we do have, certainly in the acting category, 5 places, if you will, 5 nominations. And certainly each year there is somewhere, in my personal view, somewhere around 8 or 9 really terrific performances. So when I do look at those sheets a couple of hours before I go on air, every year so far, it's been, oh my goodness, where was this one? Where was that one?
Well, after the 2015 Oscars, which were just as white as this year's, the Academy launched an initiative to increase the diversity within the ranks, right? So what challenges have you faced in implementing it? And has it proven more difficult than you imagined it would?
Not at all, actually. The leadership of the Academy, the board, has been very much in front of this entire conversation. I would say even before my presidency, presidents before me, along with our CEO, Dawn Hudson, who I think is in the room. Are you here? There she is. We women now. Started the conversation, the ball rolling, if you will. And each year it has picked up steam. And if anything, this year's nominations has really gotten us even more charged to get this not just the conversation going, but getting some results, setting some goals and meeting them. So we started an initiative called A2020, which is Academy 2020, and within 5 years to double our inclusion of women and people of color and international members, because it's important for the conversation of this tremendous medium that is adored around the world.
Okay, well, you mentioned Straight Outta Compton.
Right.
It baffles me that a seasoned director like F. Gary Gray, who'd made movies as iconic, really, as Friday and The Italian Job,
Friday's the best.
yeah, was only invited to join the Academy last year. I mean, how does that happen? What took it so long?
Well, let's discuss the concept of invited. All right, that is a technical term, but what happens is there are 17 branches of the Academy, and each branch sets its rules for recognition of talent as well as membership. Therefore, editors set a standard for themselves as editors, and cinematographers, directors, on and on and on. It isn't a small group of people sitting in a room and determining across the board who can become Academy members. So if one is interested in becoming an Academy member, you go online at oscars.org, or you call the Academy and ask for an official application. You fill out the application. You must find 2 people who are members that are in the branch that you are applying to be in to sponsor you. And then there is a meeting of each branch and go through all of the applicants, and therefore the term of "we invite you." And that's how that process works.
And how do you get onto the nominating committee?
How
do you get asked onto the nominating committee? That's, obviously.
Yes, that's a key thing.
That's a key thing.
It's absolutely key.
It is, to me, it's sort of shrouded in mystery. I mean, it's like selecting a new pope or something. I mean, how do you get on that nominating committee?
We call it an executive committee, and it is led by 3 governors. Each branch has 3 governors that are elected by their branch. And the governors look through their membership in their branch and select a wide range of individuals, because this is it's not a big industry in some ways. However, you can progress along and be a member for a while and not actually know a lot of new folk coming up, okay? And one thing that we are working on and are changing is that selection of executive committee members, because the industry is moving so quickly. Each year it just keeps kind of picking up steam, and certainly with the interest of film around the world, and certainly in this country, I jokingly say I don't think there's a college or university in America that doesn't have at least one film class, and so many film schools just have really risen, which is a testament to the love of the medium. But it also means there's a lot of really good, fresh talent out there, and we want to make sure that we have our eye on them to bring them in.
Well, the difficulty always is with these changing structures is people don't want to hire or pick outside their own circles and comfort zones. So the intractability of this problem is really driven by that, right? I mean, if you're not in the hangout circles, nobody votes for you.
Well, that's part of it, and so we are also, and have been, but we're really stepping this up, is we're looking for actively even being more involved with looking for new talent. So there's also the way of we're finding someone or come across someone that's very talented and say, you know what, you really should apply to be a member of the Academy. Because I believe, all of us believe in our leadership, that the members of the Academy have a duty. They have a duty to be ambassadors for the Academy and for the industry, and to actively get out there and sort of open your mind, if you will. The film experience and production is kind of closed in a way. You've got a lot to do in a fairly short period of time, and you tend to be very closed into the process of producing a film. And then afterwards, 1 or 2 things: you either can kick back, hopefully for a little while, to the next movie, or you are actively, trying to find the next project. And so it's not uncommon that many of our members are not, so what I say is opening, their vision a little further out than normal. Not for a reason of exclusion, but more because this is such an intense business that when you finish, sometimes you just kind of kick back, and we're saying, nope, you have a duty.
What I find strange, though, is that usually money, moves mountains, right? I mean, that people can mouth platitudes about how they want to increase diversity, whatever, but in the end, it's all about the money. It's about the deal, and it's about, doing something that's going to pay off. And, we keep seeing that movies with diverse casts and storylines actually do make money,
yes, as
Straight Outta Compton showed. Yes. So why hasn't that resulted, do you think, in a rash of movies that are more diverse? It's almost as if, Hollywood is way behind the demographics of this country.
It does seem that way, doesn't it?
Yeah, it is that way.
Well, there are many reasons that I have heard in my close to 40 years in this business of reasons why. I'm not sure that any of them really make a lot of sense to me, to be honest with you, because a good story is a good story is a good story, and I really believe to my toes that people love a good story. They love a good story. And it can come from anywhere. I mean, we heard a number of women today, 4 women, that gave us information that maybe we didn't know so much about, that we learned from today. And there's just stories everywhere. I think the world is ready for them. I really do. I think that we are going to see a change. More than we have in the past. I say that about every 10 years or so, the door opens in Hollywood, and then it kind of closes a little bit. And this time, we want to make sure that it stays open.
That's a tipping point.
Absolutely.
So tell me a little bit about your own experiences in the entertainment business. I mean, here you are, a woman and a person of color, and yet you rose to the top. What has been your own experience of, battling through these barriers?
Well, I was lucky in the very beginning of having some mentors, one of them being my brother.
Ashley Boone was a great legendary figure.
Very much so. Yeah. So much so that in the very beginning I thought no way in the world I could ever work in this business, because he was just so charismatic and smart and terrific, and I wasn't. So therefore, it took me a while before I got honest with myself and said, what do you really want to do? There were very, very few people of color in the film business, very few. So that was more than intimidating. However, it was at a time that it wasn't that unusual anywhere in America, to be honest. But I just thought, it's either going to be here, it's going to be there, it's going to be somewhere else. So why not where I want to learn, where I'd like to be?
What did Ashley tell you about his own experiences? I mean, he was, as you said, a very charismatic figure. He was the highest-ranking black executive, right, in Hollywood in the 80s and 90s.
Yes.
And he died tragically early, obviously. So, what kind of obstacles did he encounter? What was his sort of reading of it to you?
Well, Ashley was very, very successful and did extremely well. However, he probably could have climbed that ladder a heck of a lot faster, and he knew that. And I remember when he switched from marketing into distribution in the film business, which then had no people of color and certainly no women whatsoever. And because his name was Ashley Boone, they didn't know what that was. Certainly, Southern film exhibitors were, they'd deal with him on the phone, and then he'd get on the plane and he'd go to Atlanta or to Tulsa or wherever, and the shock of it all, when he walked in the room, and how challenging that was for him, even though he was representing a major Hollywood studio.
Yeah.
But, what he had said to me, certainly in the very beginning when I got my first job, he said, understand that your life is the life of the job you're taking, period. That's it. You know, if you can't do that, then you shouldn't be in this business.
Well, when you worked at Paramount, there was an unusually large number of women there, actually, and you were in the Dawn Steele, great era,
there.
really, Sherry Lansing era. What was that like? I mean, they were in the Dawn Steele sort of moment. What has changed really since then? I mean, how was that group of women in that studio at that time?
Well, it was really fabulous, actually. You know, when I first got there, Dawn Steele was vice president of production, and then became, when I first met her, head of production at Paramount with some very tough gentlemen. And she never buckled down at all. I thought she was fabulous. And she always, there was no mincing of words. There was none of this passive-aggressive stuff that just still annoys the hell out of me. You know, just be honest and clear. You know, it's a yes or a no. And so when Dawn would say yes or no, you knew it, and you knew she wouldn't back down about it. She had made her decisions, and you could stick by it. Sherry, I actually had met when I was a nothing little peon at Columbia Pictures, and she was already a senior vice president. And her presence and elegance, I will never forget. And, you know, we have remained friends through all these years. But when she came to Paramount as the head after Dawn, it was a tremendous time. Our head of television, Lucy Sulhaney, was a female. Our head of corporate communications was female. It was amazing. Do you know, our head of marketing then was a female. This is all in the late 80s. So at that time at Paramount, it looked like, you know, charge ahead, right? For females, not for people of color, however. That has not changed that much.
Well, we had a
over the
brief
years.
flurry of women running studios.
Yes,
but
we did.
Then we didn't anymore.
I know, right? It's
so
very odd.
So why do you think that when those women were running the studios, they didn't hire more women? Because it really, you know, you would think that, okay, women leaders, does it take women leaders to make women leaders, is a question we sometimes ask at Women in the World. But actually, you look at that period, and they didn't leave a whole sort of groundswell of female executives who then who then took over. Why was that?
Well, I don't know exactly why it was. I certainly, with Sherry, there were a number of movies that she made that had very strong female leads, whether it was Fatal Attraction, which was the biggest, and
That was a
Indecent
very positive movie about women.
It's true. No, well, what it was, it's, but you know,
Boiling that rabbit, you know, that was a stand
yes,
up for women
but
moment.
It did change, I would say, the career of Glenn Close.
Yes, it
in
did.
a very big way, as well as The Accused, which Jodie won an Oscar for, as well as Whoopi winning an Oscar for Ghost. So we were, you know, all sort of front and center there, and also at that time, you know, we had Eddie Murphy was one of the biggest stars in the world. So I was happy to get to work on.
Well, this has been a year, of course, when pay inequity in Hollywood has been a huge subject, and female stars are routinely paid less than male counterparts. When I interviewed Amy Pascal a few months back, she said that, I asked her, you know, what she felt about that she had been seen to be paying less to women. And she said, well, women settle for less, right? Is she right?
I've not negotiated any female contracts, so I can't really say.
Did you settle for less?
Probably, yeah. In the very beginning, yeah, right. I would say I did, yeah.
So do you think that the fault is with women, then, that they're paid less?
I wouldn't say that today, necessarily. I think that we feel a bit more secure in ourselves and to take on the challenges more than certainly a decade or two ago. The big issue then was certainly to get in the door. And then once in the door, let's see what we can do. I think that we as personal and gender, as well as race, feel a lot more personal strength than has happened before. So I think that that will change, absolutely. Is changing and will change.
Well, one of the things, of course, that women feel particularly irate about very often is the sort of ageism that's sort of, is another one of those things. I mean, in fact, you wonder whether that's going to be the next rebellion, right? Of older people saying, I've been shut out. And actually, there's quite a lot of older people who are annoyed about these new Oscar rules, right, that we've seen. Actually, I had Angie Dickinson has been very vocal about being kind of shut out and feeling...
Well, but we don't know if Angie Dickinson is being shut out.
Right.
Do you know? The press has certainly written quite a bit about this, but the new rules are not about ageism. The new rules are about making sure that our membership, which is what the rules are all about, our membership is full of active members of the motion picture industry, not what age they are.
Well, she actually sent me an email yesterday, Angie. Very vocal Angie these days. She said, clearly the Academy has its bowling ball in the wrong alley. I strongly disagree with our Academy president. She believes that if you add black members, they'll vote for black members. I, for one, and of many, do not vote black or white. I vote achievement, and have many times. And she used 15 exclamation points in the email. What do you think about that thought?
I think that she's misguided, is what I think. The issue here is about inclusion and membership.
Right.
It is not about her personal choices. I would hope that she and every member of the Academy votes for what they believe is the best achievement in their specific area. That is not the intention of these new rules. The intention, you know this. This is a business. The entertainment business has quite a few people, whether it's music, whether it's television, whether it's film, that have come to Hollywood or in New York, wherever, and have a dream to be whatever, fill in the blank, and probably achieved a certain level of accomplishment, certainly enough to be invited to be an Academy member. And after a while, maybe for whatever reason, they're not active at all in the film business and haven't been for a while. And, I do know of people who have gone off into other businesses. And because we have lifetime membership, they get to vote for lifetime. I've had people say to me, I can't believe I get to vote every year. I hardly ever go see any movies. And that's what we're looking at. We're looking at an active membership that is involved in the conversation of film and new filmmakers and new stories, and they come in all ages and sizes, and that's what we want. That's our inclusion. That's what we're about.
Well, Cheryl, what do you want your legacy to be as president of the Academy?
Well, it's funny. Someone said that to me my first year, and I thought, I really didn't. To be honest with you, I really didn't have one other than hopefully get through it without embarrassing myself, my family, or friends, to be honest. However, I am thrilled to the nines that I am in this position right now, that I truly believe is a turning point in entertainment and certainly in film and people's love of film around the world. And I have traveled quite a bit in the last 2 years. And it's marvelous as I meet different people around the world who have very much a love for the medium, number one, a lot of respect for the Academy, are impressed by the fact that the leadership is female and of color. And I think that that is tremendous. I think that the conversation of inclusion, which has really stepped up, I feel very much so in the last couple of weeks in conversations I've had with studio heads, with heads of prominent production companies, with agencies. Everybody's talking and geared to getting the job done, if you will. And so I'm very, very happy to be here and a part of it now.
Well, it's certainly been extremely intractable. Now, if you change all of these rules, and then next year you have an all-white nominees, what are you going to do then?
Well, it'll be
Shoot
what it'll
yourself.
be. I mean, everybody votes individually, right? It's an online voting. Nobody sees what you vote. Nobody knows what individuals vote. But the issue for us right now is an organization that is 94% white and 77% male. So when you have, a selection of nominees that doesn't show any kind of diversity, I mean, that is just wrong, right? So if let's say it evened out across the board and it's still, which I doubt would happen, but you never know, would be also 20 all-white actors, everybody, I believe, believes that the members voted for who they believe was the best.
All right, well, let's leave it there, thinking about the best. Thank you very much, Cheryl.
Thank you.
And thank you for aggressively espousing perhaps a new day, okay? Thank you. Thank you very much
Tina.
indeed.
Thank you.